Hi beautiful ladies, no girls, my bad. Hello beautiful girls, yes that's you. I thought I've just cut my toe. I was whizzing around the bed to get the lighting right and split between my two toes. Anyhow, we had a good start to the day today. We've got two baby chicks and they're just like this big and they're like super cute. Absolutely. I will video them when they're really tiny because they're just really special. And I kind of thought it went a little bit hand in hand with the adoption story in a way, just new life and new start and everything. So if you haven't watched the first video in the adoption series, I will put a link up here and you may want to watch that one first because otherwise this one won't make a lot of sense to you because it's quite a long story and this is very much the second part of it. So I just I'll do that in a moment. So I believe I got up to the part when the birth mum was going to bring the baby across to us, and that was going to be on a Saturday. She was going to pick him up Saturday morning from the city he was in and bring him across on Saturday around lunchtime, and that was great. You know, that was a gesture that the birth mum wanted to do. She wanted to kind of hand him to us in person, and I thought that was very nice, very sweet. But didn't quite go that way. Got a phone call Friday night saying that the birth mum had picked the baby up from the hospital and taken him to her house, to her home for the night. And that was really scary because that wasn't the plan, and I didn't have a problem with it. He wasn't our baby at that stage, but I just assumed that she was changing her mind. I mean, I didn't know why else she would do that because she wouldn't have had any milk or nappies or a bed or anything in the house. But she did ring me that night to assure me that she hadn't changed her mind. She just wanted to spend one night with him, and I thought that was probably a really good idea for her to maybe grieve. But it was a rough night. I didn't get much sleep, and then Saturday they were supposed to come because it was her family coming as well. They were supposed to come about 12 and it ended up being about 3 in the afternoon. It was a really hot day. And by the time he came, I don't think he'd had anything to drink and he was really dehydrated. And I was kind of like stressed because he was only 5 pounds when he came home to us. And that's, you know, a very tiny baby. He was very tiny. And that was after 3 weeks in an incubator. So, yeah, I was really scared. It was like this little fragile doll. And I wanted everything to be so perfect, but the birth mum handed him to me and she was very upset. It was a very emotional thing to go through. I mean, I was really happy and she was kind of heartbroken really, even though it was what she wanted to do. So that was a pretty huge moment. And then one of the social workers took her away to do something really nice for the afternoon, which was really good, and the rest of their family left. And then it was a busy afternoon. All my family and David's family came over to meet the baby, which we had named at that stage Luke, and with David as his middle name from David, my husband. And yeah, I mean, I was really tired and it was just incredible really learning to, you know, I had to learn how to do the formula and everything. I'd learnt some things in the hospital, but it was still a huge learning curve, and I was very nervous at the start, kind of checking on him all the time at night. But he was actually a really settled baby, surprisingly, considering how things turned out down the track. He was very settled and a good baby as such. Yeah, he was beautiful. I'm going to show you a couple of photos. I don't know how well you'll be able to see them. This was the first day he came to us. That's my husband. You can see he's very tiny. That's David's mum actually, and You can see that, sorry, that's David's mum there, so you can see how little he is. That's my sister-in-law. And it's just him going in David's arms, so he's very, very tiny. But it's really special to have these pictures. So that was him at the hospital before he came to us. He gained a little bit of weight from that by the time we got him. This is kind of a favourite picture of mine, I quite like it. He loved being on the swing. And then he grew quite quickly. He put on weight really quickly. He was a really healthy baby. And I'll just, oh, there's one of him when he's about 3. You can see that really well. He was a real little cutie. That's a nice one about when he was up at the Able Tasman with us. I think he was about 3 there too. So I'll put a photo in at the end of what he looks like now. Anyway, so the first 2 weeks were quite nerve-wracking because at that stage the birth mother could still change her mind, and that had always been a huge fear for me. But there was a lot of going backwards and forwards to lawyers, a lot of papers to sign, and then because this in New Zealand, and I'm not sure about other countries, adoption is encouraged to be an open adoption as opposed to the old-fashioned closed adoption, and that means that the baby or child grows up knowing that they're adopted, and if possible having contact with their birth family, and the thought being that this is going to be better in the long run for the child. And I think it's thanks Copper, I think it's early days to know yet whether this is good. It's my dog choking, because it's still quite new. He's very proud. He's a new dad. I think he wants to meet his 2 little ones. We're hoping that some more eggs will hatch, but we're not sure whether they're fertilised or not. So yes, so there was a lot of going backwards and forwards, signing a lot of paperwork, because this was a very complicated situation in terms of Luke's birth father. Because of the situation with his birth father, which wasn't great, the judge allowed us not to involve him in the adoption, and there were extremely good reasons for that. So he doesn't know that Luke exists, and that was definitely in the best interest of Luke. So anyway, after the 2 weeks I kind of relaxed, and then it took over a whole year before the final adoption was in place. So after 4 months, rascal, after 4 months, the papers went to court and we got what is called an interim adoption order, and that made me feel quite good. He wants to meet his kids. He's distracted me greatly. And then just before 12 months we went up in front of the judge with our lawyer, and he asked us some questions and looked Luke over and everything, and there's a car beeping somewhere, and he gave us the final adoption order. So that was amazing. That was like the final piece in the puzzle, and his I might have to go and feed him. His birth certificate actually has myself and David's names on, even though it's his birth certificate. I don't know why they do that, but they do that in New Zealand, and that's something that we wanted. And it doesn't matter because Luke knows. He knows that he was grown in another lady's tummy for us, and as much as an 11-year-old can comprehend that, he knows, at least he knows that he has met his birth grandparents several times. He's been to stay with them every now and then for a week, and they come to Christchurch occasionally. The birth mum initially came and stayed at my house for a night here and there in the first year, and that was very, very difficult. I wanted to give her that option, but that was not easy. It requires a fairly big heart to be able to deal with an open adoption. Although it's not a legally binding contract, you don't sign anything, and you could just say, that's it, you know, I don't want you involved anymore, you can't see Luke. There's nothing they could do, because if you became uncomfortable with the people you were dealing with, it could get awkward. So you have that out, but it's something you kind of play by ear as you go along, depending on your comfort zone and how much involvement the family wants. So the birth mum was involved for about the first 4 years. She saw Luke quite frequently. He was too young to understand at that stage, but then just all of a sudden it became too hard for her, and she just pulled away, and we haven't seen her now since Luke was 4, and she doesn't want to see Luke. I think it was emotionally difficult for her, but he occasionally sees his birth grandparents, and I think that's nice for him. He kind of understands that he's got another nana and granddad. He's got 3 nana and granddads, and I think that's a lovely thing. And no, it hasn't always been easy. At the start I just wanted him for mine, I didn't want anyone else involved, but that's selfish, and I think it's also normal. But you know, down the track he's gonna start asking questions about his birth father, and he'll just want to know how things worked out. But because he has special needs, emotionally he's more like a 9-year-old, so those questions and that process will come further down the track than they probably would have otherwise. Normally probably 11.5-year-old would be starting to ask those questions, but but he hasn't. But I've always been 100% honest with him, so it's not going to come as a shock when he gets into his teens, suddenly find out that, you know, he was adopted, which is what has happened so many times in the older days, and I think that's very damaging for people. I think it would be a huge shock to just suddenly be told that. So I think it's a good thing. It was a beautiful process. It was a hard process. I think if you're starting out down that road, you have to be prepared for an emotional roller coaster, because as I said, it's not till, you know, Luke was like a year old that he was actually legally a Woods. He still had his other name, so if he went to the doctors he was still Luke, you know, whatever. And that was tough for me. I found that tough. You know, I wanted him to be ours 100% right from the start. And of course in that first year you have social worker visits every 6 weeks. They'd come out and see how you're coping, see how the baby was doing, and they used to stress me out because I just felt like I was trying to pass some kind of test. But Luke was healthy, happy baby, and we had a lovely social worker, and it worked out really well. But so that's pretty much our story of adoption. If there's anything you want to ask, just leave a comment below and I'll do my best to answer. Would I go through it again, even with everything that's happened? Absolutely. I love my son to the moon and back. I cannot imagine loving anyone more if I had given birth to him. I sometimes think I love him more in a way, because he was a gift. So yeah, that's the end of that story really. I've probably left some bits out. I didn't make notes, but if I think of anything else I'll either add it onto another video or I'll put it in the down bar. So I hope you've enjoyed this story. It's a beautiful story, and I will at some stage talk about the special needs side of things, because that's been a rough journey. Since Luke was about 2, it's been very, very difficult. He wasn't diagnosed officially until he was 5, but by the time he was 4, he had broken windows in the house and in a daycare, and there was clearly something really wrong. And it wasn't until later on that he was diagnosed with fetal alcohol syndrome and ADHD, quite severe ADHD. So the years have been beautiful and difficult, hard on marriage, hard on everything really, but worth every worry line and every sleepless night, and all the tears. Absolutely worth it. He's a beautiful boy, he's compassionate, he loves animals, he's kind to animals, he's kind to small children. He's extremely affectionate towards me and loves making me cups of tea and coffee. He just loves to sit out and play with the chickens for hours, and he's very gentle with them. If I'm sick, he just can't do enough for me. He's an amazing kid. And yeah, I just can't imagine life without him. So take care. I apologise for Copper, who's very naughty today, and I love you guys, and I'll be back in a day or two with another video. Bye bye.